what would you say what's your platform, going forward? I know a lot of the residents already know you, but what would you say your platform is, going into the first 90 days if elected? I mean, what are the things you want to kind of tackle?
Our 5 platform points that we're talking about: one being changing the narrative of Dolton, two, financial stability, three, public safety, four, economic development, and the fifth one is improving on our infrastructure. And those are in no particular order, with the exception of the first one, which is changing the narrative around Dolton, which we feel like is very critical because Dolton, we actually have a history or a culture for the last, I would say, at least 12 years of just the back and forth fight. And the residents have said repeatedly, time and time again, I'm tired. I'm tired of sitting there watching the mayor fight the board fight the mayor. And we really want to stop that because the dissension comes from the head. And
Right.
then it trickles its way into the employees, which then trickles into the community because everybody feels like I got to pick a side, one versus
Right.
the other. Now, I recognize that I've been a board member for 8 years, so I've witnessed firsthand, and a lot of my demeanor is recognizing that the residents don't want that fight, and yet somehow you find people being drawn into that fight. So
Yeah.
that's a lot of the reason why my posture is what it is and how it is, because I do recognize that. I take ownership for any part that I played in there because, once you're on the board, you have to take some stances, and other cases you have to, you got to pick your battles. So, but what I
And you're dealing with somebody that's very tough to actually communicate with. So we understand the battles that you're picking, and you're doing an excellent job doing it.
and not only pick your battle, but I mean that they're trying to draw you and bait you into that
Yeah.
argument, and that all sets up with the you see the setup just with the agenda. And I know for the Viv, I know you've been
Too
watching
many
it.
times.
As soon as we see the agenda, you can tell where the argument is coming from, where it's not. And responsible governments, they'll set an agenda that they've already discussed kind of beforehand, agreed to,
Right.
go in there, make your votes, and you go home. Here, it's
Stick to
all
the agenda for 1 second. Now,
yeah.
tell people exactly what happens when you guys receive the agenda. How much time do you guys have to look it over? And then when you guys actually come to the meetings, why do you guys take certain things out of the agenda? Can you make that clear? Because I
Good
get a lot of
questions.
people that
The
question
went at
that,
the
and a lot of people don't understand when you say agenda. Because I'm not trying to cut you off, but I just want you to explain to all of the viewers, when do you get the agenda items for the most part? What be on the agendas that you actually take off, that you are not approving to pay? And when you actually see the warrant list, are those always bills that she's already paid and then she's trying to get you guys to double bill? Like, can you explain to everybody what's going
yeah.
on with the agenda items?
So at the peak of the back and forth debate, the agendas in the when it's functioning right, the agenda should be posted the Thursday before the board meeting. Board meetings on Monday. We should have it posted that Thursday evening, and with the whole packet, so that way the board will get Friday through the weekend and Monday to review the items, ask questions, and everything else.
Who's allowed to put items on the agenda?
By
Just so we
ordinance,
all know.
the mayor, the trustees, the clerk, any elected officials are able to put things on the agenda. That's by ordinance. And Dalton, what was happening is the mayor
Okay.
and the mayor would direct and it would direct people to withhold putting things on the agenda, which again would come into the fight. So there was meeting after meeting after meeting where you would hear us say, "Why are my things not on the agenda? You wouldn't allow us to," and that's because
Mm-hmm.
there was a hijacking of the agenda. In recent months, we've been successful in court with getting the court to agree that the clerk is actually the person that's supposed to create the agenda and post it. So if you'll notice over the last 3 months, you haven't seen those issues
Right.
because we finally got a cure. But when we were going at probably the height of all of the fighting, and I hope that was the height because I would hate to think it could get worse. that in those moments, it was more just a refusal to put things on the agenda. The agenda was set up to create the fight that you see, and it was done for grandstanding, really. To try to,
Right.
it was put things on there and to try to either bash the board members into giving into what she was looking for, or to try to say to demonstrate to people, well, see, I'm trying to give you guys all these great things, and look who's stopping it. I think
Right.
that's probably
So what?
yeah.
So the items that you guys were stopping, and I'm gonna give you a chance, but the items that you guys were trying to stop that were on the agenda, were those items that the mayor elect really wanted for the village, or were those items that she was just trying to approve, and that way she can overinflate the budget and keep some of that money? I'm just trying to understand because I have a lot of seniors that have asked me, like, why won't they just pay the bills? Why won't they do this? Why won't they do that? But they don't understand. And just from me looking on the outside looking in, like the tree removal companies and the overinflated bills behind all of the trees that were removed. Now I understand because they remove trees on our block, but it looks like the amount of money or the cost for that labor does not add up to the actual trees that was removed. So can you explain to your community like exactly how those bills went and the reason why you guys didn't decide to pay them?
The bills that we would decide to pay, we first want to look at our budget and see if the items that are being put on there are consistent with our budget. So you mentioned the tree company, and I think that's a very good one because on the surface, it seems like a good thing for the community. We want to cut down the trees, get things out the way that shouldn't be there. But if we budgeted $400,000 or $500,000 for tree cutting, and we see on there that you have $1.2 million worth of trees being cut, suddenly a good thing went to something that we can't afford.
Right.
And if we notice it, that doesn't mean that we don't address it. I mean, if we realize the community needs $1.2 million worth of trees, we need to go back, adjust our budget, cut some expenses somewhere else so that we can reallocate that money. That's the proper way to do it. Here,
Okay.
it was just rammed. It was just given to us. We didn't get a chance to review everything, and it looked suspicious. Like at what point,
Right.
if historically we are able to manage with $300,000, $400,000 worth of trees getting cut, and now all of a sudden it's 1.2, that raises a red flag. That raises more questions. Then you get,
Huge red flag.
then you get the invoices, and it says, oh well, this month we trimmed the tree, and then the next month we cut the whole tree down. Well, why would you do that?
I'm
So
sorry.
that,
What?
but that's really kind
So they
of
were trimming trees and then coming back
yeah.
and getting a
That's
double
it.
dipping and cutting them
Yeah.
down.
So when we look at why things were done, and they have, with Trustee Ed Steve would talk about, I think his wording is best. Quick li- she'll tell quick lies, and quick lies versus a complicated truth, because that story is real easy to say. Oh, I'm trying to cut your trees down, and they're trying to stop it. It seems real easy, and now the board side of it makes us seem like obstructionists at that point in time, right? Why don't you want to give the people streets? Why don't you want to give them that? And when I come back and say we can't afford it, it's kind of like the parent, like of course you want to give your kids every gift that they can for Christmas, but we know you got a budget. You have to stay within that budget, and you have to do
Hello.
the best way you know how. There was a $50,000 to rent a Christmas tree that first year.
I saw
I
that. I
mean,
remember that.
it's
I was in the
yeah.
hospital, but it was
So
ridiculous.
yeah, that was proposed to the board, and the minute we said no, we're not going for that. Shame on you. You don't even want to give the kids Christmas. It's those really quick points that is a seductive, dangling it in front of the people's face, and then baiting it into trying to make it appear as if the other board members don't want to benefit the community, which is the furthest thing from the truth. The reality is that we have to live within a budget.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
if we
Absolutely.
really wanted to work together, those arguments and those fights don't happen publicly.
No.